apologize for the very clear attack of the gremlins that we had. I did try and say good morning to everybody around the world, and I did the whole introduction spiel, and we went through all of it, but we're going to do that once more. Try this again with feeling. My name is JB, and this morning I have Gert on camera with me. Steph is out with Genre, and we are following up on lion calls. Now, I'm not sure how much of my earlier introduction you managed to see, but there's going to be a few tired faces in the Wild Earth team this morning, due largely to a nocturnal elephant visitor that decided to do some reshaping of the trees around the camp as well as the gate. So all of us feeling a little bit tired, having been kept awake by elephants wandering about. I had one in the garden where I live. The people at the DRC had one in their camp, or two in their camp. Now why are there lion tracks going this way now? I'm so confused. Tracking lions, by the way. You would have heard them calling on the Djuma Dam camera. Oh no, you wouldn't have, sorry. You wouldn't have heard them calling on the Djuma Dam camera, because... But the lion tracks are now going the other way. No, but these are not fresh. These are not nearly as fresh as the ones that we're following. So they were roaring on the dam wall first thing this morning. Looks from the tracks as though it is a mating pair of lions. It's that mating pair again. And we're going to try and see if we can't figure out exactly where it is they've wandered off to. Taxon is helping me out in terms of the search to see whether or not... I know he's been trying the whole of yesterday as well to try and find these lions, so hopefully they don't give us the slip. They've disappeared into a very thick drainage line area. Now the lioness that is mating has suckle marks. And the question is whether or not it is postpartum estrus, in other words, basically her hormones confusing the male, or the potential that she has lost her cubs. The biggest problem now is that that male has been refusing to let her leave to go back. If she does still have her cubs, he won't have let her leave to go and feed them. And I'm sure that's where she's desperately been trying to go if she does have cubs still alive. A very, very tricky situation, and an unintentional act on the male's part might actually result in the death of those cubs. Okay, lions were all over here, but not fresh. Let us figure out what's happening here. No, these are fresh. Okay, copy that. Thanks, Steph. I've just picked up on the Monbuffels, a cut line going east, the tracks that is. Okie dokie. Steph's also picked up on tracks for the Lion Pride. They've crossed south towards our area. So, where are these lions? Because the male was clearly roaring from around there. Let's go back and around. And Justin, I did find Fluffy Pom-Pom Hat. But Fluffy Pom-Pom Hat, actually I didn't. Louise did. She found it in the Mahindra. So Fluffy Pom-Pom Hat has been relocated. Brent's name has been cleared. He has once again been falsely accused of stealing something of mine, but he didn't. It was me. I left it in one of our other vehicles. Unfortunately, Fluffy Pom-Pom Hat doesn't look so fluffy anymore. It looks bedraggled and dirty. So before it can resume its spot on my head, I have to give it a little bit of a clean. So while I go off in fierce search of these lions to help Steph out, let's jump on the back with him so he can say his good mornings once again.
Good morning once again after that little short sojourn away from us. We decided that we'd leave that leopard, the site of that old leopard kill. There wasn't too much going on over there, so we've decided to come around the back of Djuma right now, back of house, and lo and behold, we picked up some lion tracks. I think it's the same tracks that Jamie is trailing. It looks like more than one or two. It looks like a young pride, or a small pride, not a young pride I should say, and moving towards the camp, moving towards the Galago Pan side of the lodge. Now you caught us just cruising basically at walking pace through here, and the reason for that is I don't quite know where they're going to be crossing out from. Out of the block that's off to our right hand side. They're inside here at the moment. That's at least what I predict. That's where their tracks are going. Relatively fresh tracks from this morning. And apart from the elephant trashing our camp, we had bushbuck alarm calling probably around about 2 o'clock this morning, and right up until 4 o'clock there was lions roaring around the camp. So they're somewhere around here. Now in the middle of that tree you're looking at is right up a little bit is a leopard orchid, and quite a big one in actual fact, and quite healthy. I mean, for a tree that's suspended in the air like that, to get that big, you're looking at a tree that's at least 35 to 40 years old, or a plant at least that's at least 35 to 40 years old. Leopard orchid. And then off to the right hand side of that we've got what's left of the full moon, the waning full moon. I think it was full probably yesterday or the day before, although it was up pretty high yesterday. Jean says up pretty high with the rising sun this morning. A bit hazy at the moment. We've been treated to a beautiful sunrise with this diffused light that's coming through, and it seems like it's quite dusty, and definitely not an uncommon characteristic around this time of the year. With these winds that pick up around the cold fronts that sweep across the land, we quite often get no rain and then this dust, this fine white dust that gets kicked up into the atmosphere. And it's the combination of the rain and the wind and the extreme dry surface of the earth that starts to pull this moisture up from deep down in the earth's surface, or deep down in the earth's crust, starts pulling this moisture up along a moisture gradient, and it's that gives the trees with the deepest roots the first little bit of moisture to kick out their flowers. And that will happen in the next, I presume, by between the 10th and the 15th of August. We're going to be seeing our first trees flowering here. And the trees that flower first, our summertime trees here, are the knobthorn, the tree wisteria, the weeping boer bean, the shambok pod, and they start flowering. That's about it that I can think of right now. And they start flowering straight after the aloes have finished. The aloes flower in June and July, and as soon as the dip happens with the aloes, then all of a sudden we start getting our springtime coming. It's not spring until, for me at least anyway, the 1st of September, but we do get trees flowering here as early as sort of the 10th of August, the 15th of August. I can't wait. Summertime for me is definitely the best time of the year, with my two favorite months being January and May. And the reason why I enjoy January is just the profusion of life and the vibrance of the bush is at its peak in January for me. And it's just the diversity of what can be found around these places is just absolutely phenomenal. And I enjoy May again because the heat of summer has started to dissipate, and the grass is starting to lie flat, and animals are starting to congregate around the water sources. Still a lot of grass around, and you get these lovely sort of misty mornings and these quite chilly afternoons, but without having to dress up like an Eskimo like I'm at the moment. Alright, now while I was sitting over there listening and we were watching that leopard orchid basking in the sun, I thought to myself that we'd actually go and have a look on the other side of camp. The track seemed to be going south from here, and although it would be a good idea to actually follow on those tracks, it's a far better idea to try and intuitively guess where the tracks are most likely to come out and work from a forward, basically a forward position backwards, rather than always following up. These animals can sometimes move quite incredible distances at night time. And even from when we last heard the last roar around the camp around 4 o'clock to now, they can move 2-3 kilometers from where we are. Doesn't sound too far. It isn't that far in actual fact. But they could quite easily cross a boundary depending on what direction they go in, without a doubt. been a lot of cat action around the property over the last couple of nights, last couple of days. We've had different sets of lions on the property. We've had mating lions on the property. We've had leopards on kills. We've got Karula somewhere with her 2 youngsters, evidenced by tracks that we found yesterday afternoon. And Karula's a dominant female leopard in this area. We haven't seen her for quite some time. So a lot of action, and this sometimes happens. Animal action on a property waxes and wanes, and you sometimes find these massive collections. You don't know what to do with yourself. There's just so much choice. And then at other times, as I'm sure some of the long-term viewers can attest to, you end up driving around here for days and days without seeing too much. Let's see if we can show you this crested spurfowl. It's a male crested spurfowl, and I'm hoping that he comes out into the open there for you. There, come on. There you go. And male crested spurfowl, you can see the spurs on his feet. And just as he crests over the top, Jamie has got a hippo that's out of the water for you.
Well, we sort of had a hippo out of the water at Buffelshoek Dam. There he goes there. He's going to disappear very quickly. But there you go. A hippo continuing on this chilly morning. He doesn't have to rush back into the dam itself. He's going to be still foraging and feeding while he still can. And we're seeing the hippo out of the water more and more. First of all, that's normal for this time of year. And second of all, because of the drought, they need to make use of as much time out spent feeding as possible. Oh, and we've got a lovely heron in the water. Let's just stop for one moment. Looks like a grey heron, although I'm staring straight into the sun. I can tell you as well that the tracks of the pride came from Buffelshoek Dam itself. Oh, there you go. Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely lovely. A grey heron currently wandering through what remains of the Buffelshoek Dam, fishing and trying to figure out. Because you could just imagine how cold his legs must be feeling right now in this dam. I shiver at the thought. Our taxis come through here as well to Buffelshoek Dam to try and follow up on the male lion tracks that we had moving in this direction. I can tell you, as I said, that the pride came from here, which doesn't really help us, does it? Because you don't really want to know where they came from. We want to know where they've gone and try and figure out if we can't find them somewhere around there. But I think they've probably been hunting in the middle of that very thick block around Mvubu Road. Hopefully Step will follow up there. I'm going to make my way slowly back towards that area and see if I can't give him a hand with that. And for now, it's a very peaceful scene at the Buffelshoek Dam. There's a blacksmith lapwing also wading about and finding whatever he can in the shallows. Freshwater mollusks as well. There he is there on the edge of the water. Okay, now if we go back, we've got a lovely view of our blacksmith lapwing, but if we go back to our heron for a moment, Blobbit McBlob, forgive me if I've got your name wrong, but I'm pretty sure what it was. Blobbit McBlob, yes, it is the same heron as you get in your area, the grey heron. Oh, there he goes, giving us a fantastic demonstration of his flying ability. There you go. We didn't... Ah, off into the rising sun. That's beautiful. Well done, Gert. Yes, it is the same heron as you guys get in... well, I'm not actually sure, Blobbit McBlob, where you are from, but this is a heron species that is incredibly widespread. So it is a heron that you would encounter in the UK and in Europe. And if you are from those areas, then it is the same bird. Here's our blacksmith lapwing, wading about with his long toes to stop him sinking too deeply into the mud. And as I said, I shiver at the thought, although perhaps the water's actually a little bit warmer, being soaking up the rays of the sun all day. What has Tax picked up upon? Let me just chat to Tax quickly. Tax. Tax, I picked up Nkonzo on Buffelshoek west of Ngala going out. I think it's the same one that Steph had tracks for crossing south at Timbuti Dam. But there was a Madora with them. I wonder if he didn't meet up with them. Copy that. Yeah, those Nkonzo looked fresh on Buffelshoek west, going east. Going west. Oh, Taxon and I, both of us getting our easts and our wests confused this morning. Maybe Taxon also got kept up by an elephant last night. Sorry guys, I'm going to have to be on the Game Drive channel, but luckily for you, Steph has managed to not find a lion, but to find something much taller.
And there we have a beautiful male giraffe coming up through the woodland from the drainage line. He doesn't look like he's too relaxed. He might be charging us though. No, I'm only joking. You can see that he's wandering around, just literally looking for branches. Although he's keeping a good eye into that drainage line there. Tracks of those lions disappear into this drainage line. I'm wondering if he hasn't seen them. No, he's just busy feeding on those bushes. Not the largest giraffe I've ever seen, but definitely quite a full-grown male giraffe. You can see by his horns, the ossification on his horns is quite robust. And I actually think that he's probably just quite a skinny giraffe rather than a giraffe that's tiny. I could imagine that they're losing a bit of condition this time of the year. Leaves this year haven't been in the great abundance. I can actually see another giraffe a little bit further back as well. Quite often, just like teenagers though, that are coming to the end of their teen years, they all bandy with their bodies looking almost too big for their bone structure that's underneath. And that, I think, is exactly what's happening here. Is we're having a look at some young male giraffe, mature male giraffe, but without the bulk of a bull in his prime. Now, how I knew from a distance that this was a male giraffe is the tops of those horns that you can see have no hair on. Females have a tufted horn that's a little bit more delicate than those horns, and they of course they're not a true horn. Giraffe are born with those horns. They're called ossicones. They're lying flat against the skull, and then they bounce upright soon after birth, and then they fuse to the skull, and they use those horns to fight one another. They use their head as a bit of a mace and swing it around on their long necks, generating some incredible force that they use then to bash their opponent's legs and necks. And it can result in some quite nasty injuries for giraffe. I've seen them fall onto the road and onto the ground after having been knocked down. And contrary to common belief, and my experience at least anyway, a giraffe that fall down don't necessarily generate enough momentum in their heads to smack themselves unconscious on the ground. The theory behind it, of course, is that such a long neck doesn't have the musculature attached to it to stop a whipping motion from developing if the giraffe suddenly falls. But I must be honest, I've never seen that. I've seen giraffe lying down, I've seen them fall down. And I've never seen that whipping motion take effect. Now they're obviously browsers, which means that they just eat leaves, they don't eat grass at all. With male giraffe, there's the other male giraffe coming through the trees. Another male I see, because of that bald horn on the top. A little bit darker than the first one. You can see that he's almost black. When you correspond the colors together, you'll see that he's got some very dark patches. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the one is older than the other. You do get blonder giraffe and you do get darker giraffe as well. And they'll get a little bit darker with age, but generally speaking, they're born a certain hue and then just darken from there. The giraffe looks like he's going to cross right behind our vehicle. Terry Steele, good morning Terry. You've asked, do lions ever attack giraffe? Absolutely. Lion definitely enjoy eating giraffe. Have a look at how majestic that looks. I just find giraffe being possibly one of the most bizarre creatures on this earth. Crossing right behind the vehicle. That's the aerial mount that you've got in view there. And of course the giraffe will stop exactly there. Having a look at us. Have a look at how giant he is compared to us. Just swinging you through the arc. We can't do a full 360 in our cameras. And there he stops again. Definitely a full-grown male giraffe. You can do with a little bit more bulk. Probably another 20 or 30%. But a giraffe in his prime nonetheless. Standing a good 5.5 meters tall. 5.5 meters is probably about 15 to 17 feet off of the ground. And the tallest land mammal on the planet at the moment. Sails off into the distance there. I just find giraffe, as I just mentioned, one of the most bizarre creatures. Imagine coming to Africa for the first time and seeing a giraffe. Let me see if I can reverse a little bit. Seeing a giraffe for the first time and having to go back and explain it to your colleagues at the Royal Geographical Society about, you saw this animal that was stretched vertically, looking a little bit like a camel and a little bit like nothing that you have ever seen before. There's that darker giraffe. You can see he's almost got whiter fur with those darker blotches. And Jamie has just asked me, what did giraffe use their horns for? Jamie, they use their horns for fighting. Those horns are designed to maximize pressure over a small surface area and create enough to knock an opponent to the ground. So when giraffe are fighting for the attentions of a female, they will, and you have two giraffe of similar size, they will stand off with one another, and after a little bit of pushing each other, they generally jostle with their shoulders. What will happen is they start swinging their necks around, using their heads as a mace. With a hope that they can dominate their opponent and get him to give up, and in that way prove their fitness and their virility and their strength to a female, in the hope that she chooses him. Let's go forward a little bit so we can get a view of him again. See, they're now feeding around our car, these two male giraffe. See if we can get us into a nice position. Quite nice where we are at the moment. There's some impala around us. Got these giraffe, birds. See if we can get you a nice view. I think on that note, let's see if we can get you while we find a nice position to go into, I'm going to pass you over to Jamie, who I think has been quite lucky this morning.
And here we go. We have our lions to the east of Buffelshoek Dam. They were right up close to where we stopped earlier to have a look at that heron. There's actually 4 lionesses here. However, we have to make do with this view for now. The reason behind that is we are right next to the den site where the new set of Nkuhuma cubs is hiding out. Now, Mom is with them at the moment feeding, and the rest of the lionesses have moved closer to her. And for that reason, because Andrew was the one who found them, he is currently in that position, and therefore because of those cubs are so young, we're not going to go any closer for now. We're going to leave Andrew to his view, and we will wait our turn to head across and have a slightly different angle on this sighting. Now, because the cubs are so young, we are staying here with this particular lioness until we have an opportunity to move in. That prominent line, prominent ridge down the back of her neck. All lionesses, of course, have that. But I've noticed that Amber Eyes, her ridge down the center of her head and down the back of her neck is particularly prominent. That might be Amber Eyes. Oh, can hear cubs. Oh. Yes, there are cubs in this sighting, but they're behind the lioness, or they're on the other side of the lioness, in the drainage line itself. Who have we got here? Look up, girl. She's giving herself a thorough cleaning. I wonder where the Nkuhumas have been hiding since we last saw them hunting. They were hunting on... Oh, it is Amber Eyes. Hey, how's that? That's awesome to realize. Guys, I've got to move. Just let Taxon pass. Bear with me one moment. Okay. Sorry, guys. This is a bit of a confusing sighting because there's several females all moving around and about. So just bear with me a moment. As we shift out of the way for Tax to come through. We were completely blocking his path. Thanks, Tax. Okay. Okay, perfect. Alrighty. Let us try and reposition. Where's going to be the best spot for us for now? I just saw another female walking towards her. Now, I only counted 4 when we first came in here. So that might mean that other female is still with the male. There were tracks of both of them on quarantine. Let's just see where Amber Eyes goes. Oof, this is very tricky. We are just going to have to wait our turn. She's going to make her way further in to the block. Yeah, no, she's disappearing for now. Going to meet up with one of the other lionesses. For now, we have to content ourselves with basically a non-view at this point and just wait our turn. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually... my beanie's making its way up my head. I'm actually going to leave this sighting for now, I think. Let me try one more time to get us a view. And I think otherwise we're going to leave this sighting, wait for the other vehicles to move out, and then we can actually make our way in. There's 3 lionesses in there, but it's really very tricky. And I don't want to go in off-road, through that gap there. I don't want to go in off-road without, or while there are other vehicles on the other side of the drainage. You might have a view through that gap. A little bit to the, or maybe you don't have a view to the right. Sorry, Gert. There you are. There she is on the right. Yeah, there you go. There's both of them. Wonderful. I wonder if they managed to catch anything. They were looking particularly hungry when we last saw them. Hopefully they did. It looks as though it's interesting because their tracks were heading in a completely different direction. It was just sort of sheer instinct that kept me checking around Buffelshoek Dam area rather than actually thinking we were going to find them, because their tracks were going west towards Quarantine. And yet here we find them in the complete opposite direction. So they were probably very busy hunting last night. And it looks as though they haven't been successful. Oh! That was greeted with impatience. Unusually so for lionesses. Perhaps that's one of the females with cubs, and just didn't appreciate having her personal space invaded. She's probably had to deal with it plenty. No, it's not at all. She's not a lioness with cubs. I wonder where the older set are. I think she's making her way in towards them. Now, Justin S., on the subject of our lionesses and hunting, Justin was wondering about whether or not when a lion eats, it chews its food, or if it just bites off small pieces. And that's essentially what it does. They don't really spend all that much time chewing their food. What they do is they use the carnassial shear that is formed by their molars. So basically their molars are like giant pairs of scissors that slice through the meat itself. But as you said, they do cut off or bite off small chunks, and they don't bother taking the time to chew, which makes sense. It's for all of our predators to eat as quickly as possible is the best possible approach to survival. And the reason behind that is, of course, because they never know whether or not they're going to manage to keep that meal or if it is going to be stolen from them at some point. So absolutely, the lionesses will grab, or the lions will grab a bite of meat, swallow it, and carry on. And their digestive systems are built to cope with that. So they've got incredibly robust digestive systems, not quite to the extent that a hyena does. A hyena's stomach acid is one of the most potent acids in the world. That's why you get that fine, grainy look to their scat. Now, lions not quite so powerful, but they do just gulp down small bones, bits of hoof, bits of fur, which is why you'll often find shards of it in their scat, shards of bone and hoof. And what often happens is actually they can block up their stomachs that way, and then they get ill for a couple of days, and then they vomit it back up again. If you ever find lion vomit, you very, very frequently, apart from all of the tapeworms and various other intestinal parasites that you'll find, you'll also find that there's a lot of bone and hoof in that sort of thing. They don't take time to chew their food in the way that we would. And Deja Vu from Jamaica, while we watch our hooded vulture, who is lurking around the lionesses, I think in hope of scoring a bit of a meal from them. Vultures very often follow behind lionesses in order to scavenge, or in order to see whether or not they make a kill. But I apologize if I am getting your name wrong. You are from Jamaica, and you were wondering whether or not lions eat meat only. Yes, they're obligate carnivores. This vulture's definitely playing the patience game. They will only eat meat, as will vultures. But what they will do is they will occasionally eat a little bit of grass, some vegetation. They might chew that in the same way dogs and cats do when they're feeling ill, but that's purely to make themselves vomit or bring up whatever it is that's blocking their digestive system. Otherwise, other than that, they are entirely obligate carnivores. Their digestive systems are built to deal with meat only. That's not to say if they happen to find I don't know, some form of carbohydrate. They might nibble on it, but it's definitely a thoroughly meat-based diet. Sorry guys, I'm just checking carefully from the side, just to see whether or not there's any sign of them. And speaking of our lions and their diet, Teddy Gonzalez, at about 6 weeks old, the cub's digestive system and their teeth are ready and well developed enough for them to start eating meat, but at that point it will only really be the odd nibble around a carcass. It's only at about 2 to 2.5 months that they start eating meat properly, and around 3 to 4 months that they are weaned. I wonder where our older set of lion cubs are. They must be on the other side. And we'll just wait our turn to go and investigate that particular area. She's giving herself a thorough bath. So a very tricky sighting for now, guys. We will be able to get a better view at some point. But for now, we will have to content ourselves with this view. And good morning to Bill. Now, you want to know why the big cats don't eat the dying catfish, and I often wonder about that. The answer to that is that they do. We've seen some incredible photographs of leopards jumping into the mud and grabbing the catfish themselves. I don't know why they don't take more advantage of it. I never understood it in the first place. When we watched the catfish struggling in the Voyatella Dam and sort of writhing on top of each other and dying, I always imagined that it would be really easy pickings for a predator. My only guess is that perhaps they don't like the taste. Perhaps it's not worth the effort of going to try and climb into the mud and pull them out. But I honestly don't know why it is that they don't take more advantage of it. Even the hyenas, I expected would scavenge off those dead and dying catfish more than they did. And I don't quite know the answer to that. My only suggestion is it's not worth it for them. But that doesn't really make sense, does it? Because, I mean, any meal is worth it for animals for whom survival is of utmost importance out here. I have absolutely no idea why it is they don't eat the big catfish. I expected them to, and what that does do is it leaves the water with the dying catfish. They start to rot, and they really start to smell particularly unpleasant. Okay, well, the good news is that Steph seems to have a slightly better view of something else. I'm going to send you across, and I'm going to keep it a surprise.
All right, and our perseverance paid off. We have a male lion in view. Looks to be one of the Birmingham boys. Looks like he's on a mission somewhere, and we are absolutely going to be following him and seeing where he's going. We're tracking him from Buffelshoek Dam, heard some impala giving alarm calls, lost his track, switched off the car, and he was roaring as we switched off the car. Came down the road, and we were lucky enough to spot him before he went into this thick bush. Couldn't have timed it better. If we were here literally 30 seconds later, he would be in the bush and we'd be speculating as to where he went. Right, it's going to get a bit bumpy and a bit scratchy as we go through here. It's not the easiest block to drive through. And he seems to be on one of these missions that male lions get into every now and again, where they just literally walk on a vector heading somewhere. I don't quite know if he is the male that has been mating with that female recently. A, because I haven't seen him mating with that female, I've been off the property for a bit, and B, because I haven't been able to see his face yet. Let's see if we can get in front of him. It's going to take a little bit of creative driving on my part. Experience would tell me to literally just follow this male lion in his footsteps because they tend to pick the easiest ways through the bush. But in an effort to try and get around him, let's see if we can't change it up a little bit. You'll see me furiously trying to work the steering wheel. At the same time trying not to drive into an ant bear hole or a warthog burrow. And then keeping my eye on him. Luckily for us, he's moving onto this crest, which is going to give us the chance of getting in front of him. Let's see if we can do that for you through here. He's a good sort of 50 or 60 yards away from us at the moment, so don't worry that my driving is going to be causing a disturbance to this male whatsoever. I'm very carefully monitoring his behavior, and the key when you're following cats like this is to look at their ears. If their ears are facing you, then you know absolutely that they're taking more notice of you than the bush around them. The inevitable monkey orange thicket. Alright, let's see if we can go through here. Andre, we might just have to lift that. Okay, this male lion is literally 20 yards in front of us at the moment. This gave us a little dirty look there as we're crashing through this monkey orange thicket. One thing I can say about monkey oranges is that they're not rare. Let's see if we can give you a view quickly of his bum. And just like I said, would be the easiest, going through exactly where he's been walking. Alright, I think we're going to try and see if we can get in front of this male lion for you. Doing this is not giving you any view whatsoever. I think it'll be better if we send you over to Jamie and try and catch up with this male.
Guys, just bear with me 1 second while Steph tries to catch up with the lions. I really need to be on the Game Drive channel in order to organize this sighting. So I'm sorry, we've left it for now. We will be back with it later. Tax, do you want to keep that area that you and Andrew are on? Do you want to keep that a 2-vehicle lock? Okay, copy, perfect. I'm pulling out of that area for now. There's sort of 1 out of 5 visual. I know that Steph has also got Madoda Ngala. I'm not sure exactly where. AFM tax, but no rush. I'll come once you guys are done. Okay, copy that. Thanks very much, Tax. Okie dokie. I am sorry about that. So what this is basically, the radio that I'm on allows us to communicate with all of the different guides in the area. And what that means is that we can call in sightings, we can discuss whatever it is we found, we can help each other out, which is what Tex and I, and Andrew actually, all did this morning to try and find these lions for you. And then what happens is, because of the impact that we want to reduce on the animal, we have a certain restriction of the number of vehicles that we have in a sighting. But what we need to do is just try and control who's coming in, what the order is that you can come into a sighting, and so on and so forth. So we're going to try and approach from the other side. Andrew's going to give us his spot, and he's going to head out and find other things. So that was what was happening there, and that's why I had to be on the Game Drive channel, otherwise we might not have got a spot at the lions. And just an update, while we are sidling forward to go across to a different view of our lionesses, we have an update. Well, actually this is from me at 2 o'clock this morning while I was watching the elephant outside my window. I heard what I think was Tingana coming back onto Djuma. Now, whether or not he's still here is a different question. Hopefully he is still around, but I'm also going to try and follow up on him a little bit later. So, as Steph said this morning on his start of his drive, we are so spoiled for choice at the moment in terms of what we're going to try and find for you, that it is absolutely marvelous, and I'm waiting for the day when it changes and we go into a sightings drought, a dry patch, because it just seems as though luck has well and truly been on our side. Yeah, we've got to make our way all the way around. And Joey, watching in Australia, fantastic as always to have you on board with us on our sunrise safari. Yes, it's true that dogs and cats can choke on bones of things like chickens. However, no, it never happens in the wild, and I'll tell you why. It's only when you cook things like chicken bones that they become brittle and they break off into shards, and that is why you can't feed your dogs or cats cooked chicken, because unless it's of course off the bone. But that is, you can feed your dog, and I did feed my dog Lexi on a diet of raw bones, along with, or to supplement her diet, I did give her raw bones. They're good for her teeth. Chicken bones, when they are uncooked, are rubbery. So any of the bones here, uncooked, absolutely fine for the animals. Now, the only way that they would run the risk of encountering something unpleasant is if they were scavenging around campsites, where they might pick up a discarded chop bone or something similar. Now, as far as I know, there are no recorded cases of animals lacerating their internal organs. It's not so much the choking risk as the potential for laceration. I think it's just because a hyena's stomach, because generally it's the hyenas that scavenge those sorts of things, and I think their stomach acid is better equipped to deal with such scraps rather than a different to a domestic dog or a cat that's had that survival or that level of digestive resilience has been bred out of them over the years. I'm just going to go through underneath a little archway and around to the sighting. And sorry guys, it's quite a long way round. But no, raw bones are absolutely fine for the animals to eat out here. Raw eggs, even raw eggshells. The animals are thoroughly equipped to deal with them. Bit of a bumpy stretch here onto the fire break. Now, often we refer to the fire break and we don't necessarily explain to you exactly what it means. This fire break is cut, as the name suggests, to stop the spread of fires from one property to another. So most of the properties in this region have a road. It's not kept in the condition that the roads are kept in, because that's not really its purpose, although we can use it as a road. But it is there essentially to add an extra level of protection against runaway fires. Not that those are going to be a risk this year, I don't think. There's nothing to burn. Usually this time of year the grasses are dead and dry, that they're about this high, rather than completely absent altogether. It seems as though Steph has managed to relocate a road. Let's find out how his attempt to follow that male lion is going.
I have actually managed to relocate the road, contrary to Genre's belief that we were going to be lost in the middle of the block there for eternity. And what we've done is, just as you watched us lose him, that was the last time we've actually seen him, we've now come out onto the road in the direction, there he is. How's that? Alright, so the idea there was to come out in front of the direction where he was walking to, and we've managed to hopscotch in front of him, and you were lucky enough to find him as we did. So now I am in front of him. What I'm going to try and do is get you into a position where we can actually see him, and I can prove to you that we have a male lion. There you go. A male lion just for you. Now he's obviously heard something which has gotten his attention. That's exactly why he's walking as fast as what he is. And have a look carefully while he's busy walking. I want you to try something if you can while we're busy doing this. Watch how far in front of his front foot the back foot is placed. For those of you who follow the show religiously, you'll notice quite often we talk about a cat registering track on track. And you'll notice that in this particular case, his back foot is outstriding his front foot quite badly. And I'm going to show you now, as soon as we get in front of him one more time. Obviously, I'm not parking directly in front of him because we don't really want to stop what he's busy doing. So he's slowed down a little bit now. If we can get in front here. Watch out, Zonda. Oh, the devastation that this drought has caused is incredible. Not giving us much choice where to drive. I tell you. This male lion is walking in these thickets. Alright, we're also getting to Gari Main, which means that he is about to cross out of an area that we can drive on. I'm just quickly going to call Mike. Mike, Steph, I've relocated this male lion. He's about to cross Gari Main at the junction with Weaver's Nest. It's just Mike was in the area to come and follow up here with us. Let's see. We can get one last visual of this male before he decides to leave us and go wherever he was going. He's definitely heard something, and he's definitely en route to whatever that is. Probably his brothers. He's one of a coalition of 4 male lions that hold this area. Here he is here. And you can just see from that bristly mane. Oh, he's beautiful. In the prime of his life, mature male lion, and he's just crossed out of our traverse into a neighboring property. Now, just because we can't go there doesn't mean these animals respect that. They've just got the most amazing amount of land to wander in and to be as free as lions can be. Oh, look how tall he is when he stands up like that. Now, if you had to stand next to your wall, he'd probably, with his head up like that, fit under your chin. The average man, He'd fit under your chin, not quite being able to look into your eyes, but nevertheless an imposing figure, 500 pounds or so of male lion, disappearing there into the bush. Alright, and of a disappearing male lion, Jamie's definitely got one that's not running anywhere. Enjoy that one.
This lion is definitely not running anywhere. How utterly adorable is that? Tiny, tiny little face, suckling away from Mom. There's number 2 at the back, little ears popping out. We are so spoiled to have moments like this. Isn't it absolutely incredible? These cubs are minute. There's Mom. Look, their ears are starting to come up. They're now looking far more robust and capable of moving around. Mom has done a wonderful job of looking after them. Now, the reason that we are comfortable here, and this is something that we do need to reiterate to everybody, is with lionesses, when they are with their cubs at this age, they are more than capable of looking after them. And we don't, at this age, we don't view leopard cubs, we don't look for leopard cubs. However, when we have a known den site and with lion cubs and we know that the mother is with them, and in this case she's got the support of 3 other lionesses, then we are comfortable in sitting and watching them from a distance and speaking obviously very, very softly so that we don't disturb them. And we are right, if we have a look at where we are, we're right on the opposite side of the drainage line, so we're far away. You can see we are zoomed in very, very close in order to get that view. So just to give you guys a little bit of comfort in terms of our distance from the lioness and our level of interference, we're not affecting her in any way. The rest of the pride are around her. We don't have a view of them at the moment. Oh, sorry, my silly beanie making its way into the view. So there we go. We can spend some time watching those amazing little creatures as they have their breakfast. Utterly adorable. Look at that little face. I don't know where the older 3 are, but we have so many exciting moments to look forward to. They're going to start playing with their cousins. Oh, little ones. Where did breakfast bar? Where did the milk bar go? Oh, shame, little ones. Did Mommy dislodge you without any warning? Joseph Payne, in terms of our little cubs and their age, I'm sorry, I can't concentrate. I'm overwhelmed by just the sheer cuteness of this sighting. Oh, little ones. Oh my goodness. Joseph, sorry, you wanted to know how old they are. So we can't be 100% sure, but when we first found them, we suspected that they were about 10 days old. They're probably now approaching 3 weeks or so. Maybe just a little, yeah, about 3 weeks I think is a good estimate of their age. Oh, now starting to play with each other. Crawling over each other and now really starting to explore their world. even going so far as to try and climb up that fallen stump. They've come out of the drainage system and are now attempting to find Mom. Now, Dr. Rob and Soraya, again, my apologies if I'm mispronouncing your name. I've always found it an odd practice of ours to assign human years to animals' lives. So the whole story of 7 dog years being the equivalent to, 7 human years being the equivalent to a dog year. But a lion would be, if we had to compare it that way, a lion would be very similar to a medium-sized dog. So their life expectancy takes them up to about 13. The one thing that takes the lions a bit longer is their cute, the age at which they reach sexual maturity. So puppies and kittens usually first start their heat or their estrus cycle at around 6 or so months. Lions will not be ready, or female lions will not be able to reproduce until they're around 2 years old. So that takes a little bit longer in the development of lions and leopards than, little one, than it does for dogs. Oh, you lost? Oh, you lost, baby? Your mom's coming back to investigate. Where are you going, baby? Her cubs have gone into this long, thick grass. I'm just trying to get them back. The other one is now on a mission somewhere. He's going on an adventure. Calling. How amazing is this? Back you go, little one. A little bit too young for adventures. Isn't that incredible? Now, I suspect by the age of this lioness, she's very young. I wouldn't be at all surprised if this is her first litter. Oh, I want to go, Mom. I want to go on an adventure. And isn't it incredible? Those jaws that have enormous crushing power, capable of killing a buffalo, and yet are so phenomenally gentle with the little ones. Alright, Mom, well, you've picked me up and carried me back here. Well, at least have the decency to roll over and give me breakfast. Oh, I hope you're all getting some amazing screenshots. This is too special for words. Oh, Mom. Come on. Open up the milk bar again. Bath time. That's amazing, Phoebe. Very, very impressive indeed. Phoebe's managed to split her attention from these lion cubs and is wondering about the bird that is singing merrily away. Next to us, yes, Phoebe, it is the white-browed scrub robin that is chirping away happily. I'm not going to try and look for it because I don't want to take my eyes off the cub for a second, just to make sure that we see whatever's going on. But very well done. Yes, that was the white-browed. It is the white-browed scrub robin that is happily rejoicing in the morning sunlight. They have a range of very wide range of tunes that they whistle and sing away beautifully. definitely one of the most pleasant birds to listen to. I don't know where the other two have gone. Now, James, in Texas, obviously you are aware of the biggest threat to the cubs being a strange male lion, and you wanted to know why there are no males around to protect the cubs from strange males. And the answer is there are, in a way, but they can't do it by staying with one pride the whole time. Also bearing in mind that the Birmingham boys have got cubs further to the south of us as well, so in the direction that male was going. So the likely fathers of these cubs have a very, very important job to do. They're not hands-on fathers, but they're patrolling the territory constantly, and by constantly roaring, by urine spraying, all of that is their way of protecting the cubs, because it's their way of advertising they are in control of this area, and any male that even thinks about coming into this territory will be in serious trouble. So that's why they don't stay with the pride the whole time, but they patrol, and they've got an enormous territory that they've got to patrol in this particular coalition. Oh, look at the little claws. Desperately trying to get underneath Mom to have a drink. Oh, it's so cute. Gone all mushy. Come on, Mom, I'm not interested in whether or not your feet are clean. I want to have breakfast. Look at the little paws in comparison to hers. Oh. How special is this? Tiny, tiny little feet in the air. I think the other two must have gone to sleep in the thick area behind her. Such special moments. Now, while we watch our lioness clean her paw and her little cub as well, Michael, who is 18 years old, has raised a very salient question, and that is, why do we not name all of the lions in the way we do the leopards? Because oh shame, that little one's got a cut on it. Is that a cut or a leaf on its leg? Sorry, Michael, I will get back to you in one moment. Little one. I think that might just be a leaf that it's gathered. I can't really tell. Sorry, Michael. So you raise a good point, because we've named Amber Eyes. Why don't we name all of them? There's nothing to stop us from doing it, and traditionally a pride, the individuals in a pride aren't named. The reason individual leopards are given names is because they are solitary creatures and there's less of them than there are lions, whereas for the most part sorry, her licks are so powerful that it's just moving the cub's entire head. And it couldn't be less interested in bath time. So cute. And those spines on her tongue are capable of rasping meat away from bone. She's using it very, very gently. Oh, sorry, Michael, I promise I'll answer you in a moment. It is a little cut. Probably from a thorn or one of its siblings. Nothing serious at all. Oh, baby. There you go, quickly, little one. Oh, no, I'm going on another adventure. A wobbly-legged lack of coordination there. Is Mom gonna pick it up again? Stop it disappearing. Sorry, Michael, I promise I'll answer your question in a moment. Oh, off Mom goes. Checking on the rest of her pride mates. Now, if the pride does get up and move off, or if she moves away from, if they move away from this area, then we will leave, so that we are not here while the cubs are on their own. But for now, she's just lying down a little way off from the fidgeting figure of her little cub. Sorry, Michael. So the reason traditionally that individual lions are not given names is because, as I said, they're not solitary like leopards, and there are more of them. So we don't need to, or traditionally guides haven't needed to label each and every individual lion. They do, members of a coalition do tend to be named, but only really in cases where they are a particularly dominant coalition. So the Mpochos had names, each and every individual Mpocho in that coalition of 6 males. But the Salati males, for example, are not necessarily referred to by name. We refer to the Matimba males by name, hairy belly and the ginger male. There's nothing to stop us from naming the individual lionesses, and yes, in a way we have, actually, just to make it easier for us to keep track of the individuals, particularly now that there are cubs involved. So there's the 2-spot lioness and the grey-faced lioness and so on, but those are not official names. Traditionally, hyenas are not given names either. They are just referred to by their clan because there are so many of them. Bear in mind that a lion pride in this area could actually potentially even go up to 20, 30, 40 lions. It'd be very difficult to keep track of them all. But the answer is basically it's just tradition. Oh, little one. She's so cute. But Amber Eyes we've named because she's so distinctive. She's very easily, instantly recognizable. You're going off to join your siblings. Oh, no wonder you've got a cut on your leg, climbing in and out of those thorn trees. Our cub has disappeared from view for now, and our lioness has become very, very difficult to see. So while we wait for them to come out more into the open, let's go across to Steph for a quick update.
What a treat to you with that lioness with those lovely cubs. Isn't it amazing on a day like today where we've got lions literally falling out of the bush left, right and center, which is lucky. Completely atypical to how our normal safari with me goes. What we've decided to do is leave that male lion be. He's crossed over our boundary and he's heading south on some errand or another. It looks like his brother was calling him, or he's getting himself into a fight. And we've moved into a pattern that hopefully will show me where Karula's tracks are, or where she is at the moment. Last night we had her tracks going up Philemon's cut line heading towards the lodge. And the last track I had was of one of her cubs heading towards the Vuyatela Dam, but her tracks headed off in a more sort of northwesterly direction. And I'm convinced that I missed the tracks of the cub crossing over, and that she headed towards the drainage line that lies on the western side of Quarantine. And that's what we're doing now, is now we're just checking this road very, very carefully to see if we can find where her tracks cross over again or what she's been up to. And that's basically the plan. As with all things that I plan, it'll probably be exactly opposite to what I end up doing by the end of safari. But nevertheless, it is the way it is. It does allow me to talk to you a little bit about what I think happened to that male lion. I think that was the male lion that has been mating with the female over the last couple of days. I think she's probably reached the end of her cycle at the moment, and that allows the couple to split up. He would have been hearing his brothers roaring at night time. He would have been listening to the news of the bush around. Male lions, when they're not mating, they're defending a territory, as I'm sure Jamie has been talking to you about. And just from the look of him, that very fast walk that he was doing, the roar, how we found him, was him roaring, that stopping, looking in one direction, carrying on walking, listening in one direction and carrying on walking. That's typical of a male lion that's defending